All right, so this morning I want to talk about housing first initiatives. So, and food initiatives, because essentially I've only volunteered at one place that serves homeless communities that focuses on providing extremely healthy food, like healthier food than the majority of Americans eat. And so their main focus is getting farms and companies to donate healthy, fresh food to homeless populations, which is something that we don't see regularly because oftentimes in homeless populations, the food that is being served in those places and spaces is leftovers that are donated by kitchens around the city and things like that. And oftentimes that food has been out all day or sometimes starts to taste different. But it's not just about the taste. So people who suffer from things like MCAS suffer with extreme gut issues and suffer greatly eating those foods and require pain medication and other things to be able to eat those foods. Okay. So, in the past 6 months or so that I've been living in my car, more than 6 months now, that I've been living in my car full time, I have come to discover that all of my gut issues really, really determine the health of my joints, the health of my entire body. And I've been saying this for years, but now I have evidential proof because my body went from being healthy and remission with a lot of my conditions to being in full on flare up again just because of my diet change. Stress levels didn't change. I'm still in the same amount of stress. So that's not the factor that changed. One stress switched to another. So that's not the changing factor. Diet and rest are the changing factor at this point. We complain about the cost on the medical healthcare system and all that good stuff, but you have hundreds of thousands of neurodivergent children on the street. And I say children because anybody under 25 is a fucking child, whether you want to admit it or not. And so you have all of these neurodivergent children who, one, were not taught how to eat properly if they were in foster care. I guarantee you at least 50% of those kids don't know how to eat healthy. And then you got them eating all of these unhealthy foods. If their gut does not get well, their brain can't get well. I'm sorry to say it, but there's actual peer-reviewed studies, and I'm not going to give them to you as much as y'all want me to do the work for you. I'm not going to give them to you. There is peer-reviewed studies that show that gut health affects mind health, not just for neurodivergence of autism, Down syndrome, ADHD, neurodivergence of all kinds. Migraines get affected by diet. Dyslexia gets affected by rest. Believe it or not, the less rest you have, the more dyslexia you have, the more symptoms of dyslexia you have. You start to have mobility issues, things like that, because you're exhausted. So, what do people do to compensate? They do drugs, they do unhealthy patterns of activity to try to get those dopamine rises. People talk about not just dopamine, but serotonin, endorphins, and things like that. So, a lot of people rely on sex as a drug or drugs as drugs or self medicating with alcohol and things like that, since we don't want to classify alcohol a drug, even though it's one of the most dangerous drugs out there because it's socially acceptable. So, how do we combat this if we truly care about people getting healthy? Well, if you're not going to provide housing for these people, if you want them to go through the hardship and learn on their own and be on the streets until they're mentally able, at least provide healthy meals for them. Some of these programs provide gym memberships for them. That is the healthiest thing you can do because you can build community in a gym. Some gyms like the YMCA have all these different other programs for community building and such and such. From there, you can build, those are the building blocks, the foundation of societal support: showers, food, exercise. Have them focus on these three main things to build a pattern. If they can't do anything else and you truly, truly want to help them focus on those three things. Instead of creating packs with local farms or not farms, with local restaurants to get leftovers from leftover restaurants, what you can actually do is ask local farms to donate fresh fruits and vegetables to be able to prepare meals on site. You could get a cooking crew. Some of these places do have them, some of them do not. The way you help widespread is to get all of these places to have this availability to them. Because food should not be used to control people into going back to work. Because you're making them sick before they even go. You're setting them up for failure. It's like a child going hungry to school. They can't think properly and learn new things if their tummy isn't well. It's the same thing providing unhealthy food to homeless people. What ends up happening is you're creating the cycle of unhealthy mental problems due to the gut bacteria that's in their body. Because in reality, religion has gone way whack talking about demons, but the original demons that are talked about in the Bible are actually our inner demons, which are our belly, gut bacteria, and how when that is off, it can greatly affect the brain. So somebody who is incredibly responsible, blah, 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 can become manic or depressed or crazy. Like literally, I want to kill people crazy because of their gut bacteria. Like, believe it or not, it can do that. And especially if you are neurodivergent, you're at higher risk of that. You're at higher risk of that. And eventually all of that ill-informed eating becomes bad habits that eventually create permanent and lasting problems. Although I don't believe anything has permanence, but some chronic illnesses are things that you learn to live with. It doesn't mean that they go away completely, but they go dormant. Is what I call remission. They go dormant. Once you're in remission, as long as you keep that healthy lifestyle, if your condition is able to go into remission, it will go into remission. But the moment you go back into those unhealthy styles of living, you will fall right back into that unhealthy vessel. Why? Because your vessel is barely recovering. At least for me, I didn't start eating, like really focusing on healthy eating until I was about 29. And it still took several years to build my knowledge and wisdom around what was right for my body. Because what's right for my body isn't right for another's. Like my mom has extreme reactions to garlic. It's a sensitivity that she has. Yet I can eat tons and tons of garlic and it won't affect me. Yet if I cook it in certain ways, my mom doesn't even have a reaction or notice that the garlic is inside the food. So I think that her body just can't tolerate uncooked garlic. You see what I mean? So each individual's body is different. So each one of us has to learn about our body, because then you can't tell the people around you. Like, people will offer you food and a lot of people will be rude about it because they don't want to give personal information. Like, I have a food sensitivity, but if you actually told people about your food sensitivities, now that I have friends, that's the main focus, like that's the number one thing we establish before we even go out to eat. We establish who has food sensitivities, what are those food sensitivities. With mine, they're all over the place, so we just kind of play it by ear, and I keep snacks in my car for that. But the inclusion part is what keeps you part of the community. When the community itself isn't even bothering to consider what your eating ability is or your window of tolerance for foods is, you don't even want to be part of those communities, which is what's happening with a lot of us who are going to clubhouses, who are getting free food from certain sources, and who are getting assistance that is given from the cities, because a lot of the food that is given to us is not food that we can eat. So I pass it on to other homeless people, but it doesn't help me in any way, shape, or form, because I can't eat that food. If I eat that food, I get really, really sick, which we have now proven, now that my gut is to the point where I'm having to really, really get medical attention right now. Food. If you're not going to provide housing gives the nervous system security, but healthy food keeps the nervous system healthy. Keep that in mind. An unhealthy gut also affects the nervous system because of all the nerves that are inside of our gut. Our gut actually has a shit ton more nerve endings than a lot of the rest of our bodies. So keeping that area healthy, if you can only focus on that number one thing, focus on that number one thing. Because the last 2 weeks have really given me a perspective that I need to barrel down and just focus on that so that I can have the energy that I need to do the next step. I can't keep up with the amount of physical therapy that I need right now to build the muscle if I'm not eating the right foods. It's that simple. So as homeless and house first initiatives and stuff like that, if you're struggling of where to put your funding to help individuals, that's the number one way you can assist the majority of individuals without leaving anyone out, getting their bodies healthy so that they can get working in a healthy mental manner, because learning how to eat is one of the biggest building blocks that is missing in American culture. Okay, I love you and have a beautiful day. This is just information. It's not medical advice. It's just something to help you think about ways to help your communities, because essentially healthy food is one of the biggest obstacles to lasting health for individuals who are suffering from houselessness. That's one less thing to worry about. And having food isn't the same as healthy eating and healthy vessels. Having food, just eating to feel full, will take away your hangry mood and might elevate your blood sugar if you struggle with blood sugars like I do. However, in the long run, you're paying for it with your health. And the amount of doctor's appointments that I have to have now compared to when I'm eating healthy proves that if you really want to save money in healthcare, you would focus on getting some of these large processed food companies out of our stores. That simple. It's that simple. Because if you want a healthy future, that's where it begins. Healthy farming practices, because a lot of our fruits and vegetables do not have the nutrients that they need because of how we grow our food. And healthy restaurant and store, not just mottos, but actual like integrity within these places, because we've allowed corporations to overflood our economy with these things, because there's no one filling in that gap of feeding those who are hungry and who have to save that dime on her tomatoes, because honestly her kids got other things to that she's got to cover. That mom that's starving herself so that her kid can eat. A family surviving off of potatoes because there's only one breadwinner. That's not okay. None of that is okay. And a lot of these housing first initiatives forget that. They forget that if we don't have a healthy meal, if we're constantly being bombarded by food that is not only just leftovers, but it's been left out, it already has microbes that, for at least for people like me, just one of those meals is enough to have me feeling sick for days. So just keep that in mind. And if you truly care about your community, find ways to build that web within cities of local farms that have extra food, because there's a lot of extra food out there that's getting composted because they don't have that network yet. We all have to want to build that network, not just the farms. The farms are open to build that network. No farm wants food waste. So help them build that network as community activists. You're working within the homeless populations. Build that bridge. You are that bridge builder as community support leaders. That is where you build that bridge. If you can't provide housing first, at least provide healthy meals for homeless individuals. And I'm not talking about just meals in general. I'm talking about actual focusing on actual healthy meals that will get people healthy and not craving the things that they are craving, like drugs, like alcohol, like a distraction, which for people who are overeaters, food can be a distraction. So eating and eating and eating things that are harming your body can become the distraction. And that pain that it's causing from that distraction then makes you want to search for things that will remove the pain, which for many people becomes addiction or suicide. Because for me, it was suicide. I really wanted to kill myself because of the amount of pain that I was in. And my joints getting, like, I used to get the claw all the time in my left hand. And it's so painful when you're not getting your nutrients from your food. So just keep that in mind. You want to reduce drug addiction. That's one of the major ones, because there is a lot of chronically ill people on the street who are not getting foods that will reduce the inflammation in their bodies. And if we don't care about that and changing that first, these housing first initiatives won't last. Like, people are always complaining how we get them into the apartments, but they're out of the apartment within months, because they didn't learn the foundational blocks of living on your own. And one of those big ones is eating healthy. Your emotions and all of that, that's extra. Eating healthy, hygiene, and exercise should be the first three important building blocks to a person's health. You got to meet them at their level. If they don't have these three building blocks, you got to rebuild these building blocks before you focus on something else, even if the person wants to skip steps and focus on the other stuff. Because unfortunately, that's what I keep telling them. You keep telling me to just find a way to get into these apartments, but I know that I won't be successful. Right now, in this moment, I know I won't be successful in staying in them. In a few months, I will burn myself out at the cost that you're asking me to be in these apartments. And if I burn out, I'll be back on the street in a few months. I'm not going to set myself up for failure knowing how unhealthy my body is right now. And until my body is healthy enough for me to say, yes, I can do that without getting sicker than I already am from the stress, then I'm not. And so many of us on the street are like that, because we know our bodies well. We've done what you've asked us to do in the past, and it's put us in the hospital, quite literally in the hospital. And then hospitals mistreat us and label us with things we don't have. And then we are mistreated everywhere we go because of those labels. And it keeps us in that fucked up cycle because of the labels that have been placed on us. And like I said in other videos in the past, I know I deserve that fucked up cycle because I tried to commit suicide. But my suicide attempts should not be blocking assistance 10 years later. I've done the work to get myself well enough mentally and cognitively so that I can defend myself in this process. And I'm telling you right now, if you're not going to provide housing first to let the person's nervous system relax enough so that their body isn't showing signs of that stress, then you need to help them detox their bodies by providing healthy food. And if you're saying that you're doing all of these great things, but that's not one of your initiatives, literally you're just enabling a problem that's going to continue to grow. Because without healthy bodies, we do not have healthy minds. And even if you have a healthy mind, it does not guarantee you will have a healthy body if you are not giving it the right fuel. It's that simple. And you can, I've tried. I've joined these groups to try to learn new things while my brain is the way it is right now. It's only causing more problems. Because right now I need to focus on that aspect of my vessel's needs, and I need to meet those needs before I can move to the next step. If you guys aren't willing to teach people about that, you're setting them up for failure. Just saying. I love you and have a beautiful day.